Today we're going to be talking about how young people can get into quantum computing early, like for example, you. And we have some really great guests.
Hello! Today we will have John Martinis with us, one of the 3 winners of the Nobel Prize in Physics for 2025. You know, Kai, John is building a quantum computer right now, so that's going to be really cool to talk to him.
And who else?
Well, also joining us today is Elisa Torres Durney, a young physics student and the founder of Girls in Quantum. It's an awesome global community that helps young people around the world get into the quantum computing field. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, hi, you have a first question.
Hi, John. I'm 9, and when you were 9, did you already, wanted to work in quantum computing?
Well, when I was 9, no one had thought about quantum computing yet, so that didn't enter my mind. But I was very interested in computers, okay? And there's a story, I kind of forget the date, but when I was around 9, my parents made me ask Santa Claus what I wanted to get for Christmas. And I asked that I wanted a computer. And of course, back then, no one had computers, but there was this little kit that had like couple bits of computers and was all computation, and it was all mechanical and the like. And that's what my parents had decided to get me. And I really enjoyed that. It was a way to understand what was going on. But back then, no kids asked about the computers. It was very unusual for me to learn about that. But what I would say is when I was 9, I was very interested in science in general and technology and electronics and whatever. And my parents just bought me little kits to build things at home. That was really helpful for me.
Oh, wonderful. That's really cool. So basically, there wasn't like a single moment when you realized that you were interested in science, but it was sort of a progressive interest. And is that how you got into quantum specifically?
Yeah, I would say that was always something I was just naturally interested in. My father, who didn't go to college, was very, very smart. He would have made a great engineer. He was very, very smart. But he grew up in Croatia and there was a war on and he couldn't really do that. But he was always building things in the garage. I just kind of picked up stuff from him, how to do things. And I was interested in building things.
And how can we get more interested people in quantum? Maybe if we tell them we can win the Nobel Prize.
So what I would say is, to do this requires a lot of work, and quantum is a lot of stuff you have to know. But I would say at 9 years old, just getting interested in physics and learning about science and getting good at mathematics. And I would say there's lots of kits out there that you can build things, science kits, technology kits. Also, when you want to learn about quantum computing, you have to learn about how regular computers work. And I know when my 2 sons were very young, they started playing around with programming. And I think they have some nice languages that are easy to understand, and you can just program a game for yourself and just get used to doing these kind of things when you're young.
By the way, I program games in Python.
Really?
Hello, I'm Kai. This is my first Python lesson, and today we're going to be learning how to do step-by-step hello world, print and input and all this stuff, and I hope you enjoy the video and learn as well a lot. Click new file, here file again, and click save, then you're to File Explorer, and then write whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it greeting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you just want to explore things and learn things. And to understand quantum computing, you have to understand how regular computers work, which is accessible to you. You can do that. And also, physics and science, which you're learning in school. But like I say, also kits and other things can help you build up that knowledge.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, Kai is doing programming and already designed a few games. He started when you were
Good.
7, right?
Yeah.
Have you done any robotics that you can do? For example, Lego. I see your shirt. You can do Lego and you can program the Lego in some way. I remember my children doing that. And that's really good too, because then you get to see the computer doing something, that you can see.
Build, unbuild, rebuild, repeat.
Right.
There you
That's
go.
right. Do you build things that are not, in the Lego instructions? Do you build new things that you think about?
Well, once I was building a little mech, like it was this big, and like at a piece, and then and my friend, all he done, he just took a boat piece, put wheels, and then it was done. But then what I done, I was actually building technique parts that were moving around and
Good. Yeah, because you want to invent things and use your imagination and invent things and see how it works, and then maybe figure out how to make it better or make it faster or something. This is all really useful when you go into science later
Yeah.
on to, let's say, build a quantum computer. You have to have the imagination on how to build.
Yeah, for sure. And so Elisa, you of course also got into quantum pretty young. And could you tell us your story, how you got in, and also how do you get other young people interested in quantum and to join your Girls in Quantum community?
For sure. And what you guys were talking about, Lego, I love that. Also, what John mentioned about getting involved early into the field and just being able to be curious. I think that that's one of the main important things that I love about it. When it comes to quantum computing, I first got involved when I was 15 years old. And for me, it wasn't expected at all. I think that I didn't also have the opportunity to just like, oh, I'm going to have a computer or something like that. It was mostly online for me. When I was 9, Kai, I was usually also outside in my garden, just playing with soil and doing a chaos. My mom would be like, oh no, what have you done? So even though I was 9, I would be like all over, and I would love to just explore and have fun there. And over high school, over like middle school as well, I was just very curious in terms of the Scratch. I would program there. I would love to use those platforms because it's very easy to program as well. How do you use it? Really nice, really nice.
I had a goal of making 100 programs, so I only landed on 52.
Crazy. No, that's insane.
If you want to see it, it's just on Scratch. Name is LSKU11. Duck Story is the best one.
Perfect. I love that. And yeah, during high school, for me, was mostly about seeing online programs. I remember I was like ready to start high school, everything nice, and then the pandemic hit. I was able to discover courses online, and one of the topics that came in was Introduction to Quantum Computing. And I remember I was like, imagine your face, like imagine you haven't heard about it, and like you're thinking about maths, you're thinking about algebra perhaps, and then you see quantum computing there, and you're like, what is this, right? So for me, that was very new. Is it new as well for you? How would be your impression?
My mom has been telling me about quantum since I was born, literally.
Yeah.
Why did you start Girls in Quantum?
That's so nice. Well, I started Girls in Quantum because of that. I learned throughout this course from like awesome professors from MIT and from people from IBM. I was just learning so much from them that I really got inspiration. But I also said, well, why not starting an organization to foster this across students? It's not limited to only girls, as people might think, because of Girls in Quantum. Everyone is welcome. We have like so much fun together, and our programs are for everyone. But hopefully, we can bring more girls into this field. We invite leaders in the field, people that are in industry or academia. We share resources and workshops, and we're now in more than 60 countries. And it's very beautiful because I started this when I was 15. So hopefully, this can keep growing.
Yeah.
Are you kind of targeting like students in high school, for example? Yeah, that's
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the
Yeah.
idea. It's like people, sometimes we have an ambassador that is 9 years old. And the idea is that people from 9 years old to like undergraduate or like high school can join and learn.
Good.
Well, so maybe Kai can become the next ambassador.
Yay!
Yes,
Well, I'm actually
exactly.
kind of over 9. I'm like 9.5.
9.5. Yes.
So Elisa, were you able to run quantum programs on these online computers? Was that
Yes.
part of what was exciting about it for you? Yeah, this is really amazing that that's available to you.
Yes, exactly. There's online programs right now that are available for people to do it. So that's what I'm saying. Like Kai, if you have the opportunity to do it, or for any student that might be watching this, a parent as well, or people that might be interested, is that those resources are available for people to run it. Of course, it's not professionally, as you might be like used to like do it like all the time with more complex things. But it's a way for you to get introduced, and it's such a great thing to do.
Yeah. And well, Kai, you already love everything about quantum when it comes to weird things like, superposition, right?
I liked it because of how you explained it to me.
Yeah. But you told me, he mentioned sometimes that grown-ups
Superposition.
say that quantum is quite hard.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly. So Kai finds it easy, but grown-ups very often find it difficult. So what do you think, like if adults find it hard and kids may not want to do something that their parents think is hard? So how can we get them motivated to get into quantum? And what age would be the perfect age then to start?
This is a really good question because when you normally teach quantum mechanics, you teach how atoms work, and there's all this complicated mathematics. And at a deep structure, that's hard. But if you want to think about how qubits work, quantum bits work, then the mathematics and physics is a lot simpler. And I can imagine someone young learning it this way. And the nice thing is you can run your programs on a quantum computer. This is what Elisa said. And then you can kind of see what happens, and then you can kind of get a feeling for what's going on. Because that's kind of what happens when you become a physicist. You do these things and do the math, or you run an experiment for a long time, and then it kind of makes sense to you, just like, how you're building your Legos and how they put together. After a while, it kind of makes sense. And yeah, I can see that this could work just fine.
By the way, I got another question. Why are quantum computers just a white cube? I was once at ET Zurich, and there's like a big white cube as a quantum computer, and like.
But what was inside?
Well, qubits going big.
Kind of why is it so big?
It's like taking a computer inside of a refrigerator.
Yeah. Well, when regular computers were first built, they filled a big room. Okay. And then, over my lifetime, they got really small because people figured it out better and better. So because we're building the first quantum computers right now, it's really complicated, and it's kind of easier if we make it big, okay? And then I think over time, we're going to make it smaller and smaller. Yeah, the regular computers in the 1850s and 1960s, way before you were born, they filled gigantic rooms. That's the way I remember computers back when I was your age.
A few times in kindergarten, people used to say when you have a microphone, if you have one of these, before they are like super small, like this big, and then the longer it took, they got bigger and bigger, and then I just realized that when I looked at an old computer, this was the base of it, where you type, and this would be the screen. And I realized that actually things were very big and they got smaller.
That's generally what people do to make things cheaper and better. It's smaller. But microphones for podcasting is very funny because if you see a big microphone with the podcaster, it kind of makes them look more important. If you have a big microphone. Yeah, oh my God, you must do this professionally.
Do you think, John, that we'll have it in a possible way of like possibly have it in our hands?
The problem is the technology is pretty complicated, and it requires you to do all these things well. And although I think it'll get smaller, it's not necessarily going to be as easy as to, what's going on in your cell phone.
Yes.
Okay. So I think it'll get smaller and cheaper, but not to the extent that regular computers are.
Awesome. Nice to know.
You actually need to be very good in math and, to work in quantum, or what do you
Good in math.
well,
So
I'm good in math.
I was always good in math, but I wasn't necessarily the best person in math when I got to college. Then it got very hard for me. And I enjoyed it and it was fine, but my skills are more building things like building Legos and things like that. That's what I'm really good at. And that's why I've been successful in my career. But I needed to know a lot of math to understand what I was doing.
If we fast forward, say 15, 20 years from now, people working in quantum, we will need people who are definitely good in math, but they should also know other fields, right? Like pharmaceuticals, finance, and so on. People should be exposed to quantum early, even if they go into those different fields later.
That's right. The thing is, having the knowledge of many different things very much helps you in the field. Usually people get good at one thing, like I'm really good at building, but I'm good at math and I'm trying to learn how to be good at business and other things. But you generally have to know a lot, but you have a lot of time to grow those skills over time.
Yeah, for sure. Elisa, you mentioned that you started looking into quantum when you were about 15, right? And then you also mentioned quantum ambassadors from the age of 9, and Kai here is 9.5, right?
Exactly.
In your opinion, like what is the perfect age? Then should kids start in secondary school, or when they actually already learning physics, or should they be exposed to some concepts of quantum, like superposition and entanglement, much earlier, like Kai's age, or maybe even earlier? What's your view on that, Elisa?
I know superposition.
You know about superposition. I think everything builds up on curiosity in terms of like questioning yourself, questioning like, oh, perhaps why does this happen, right? So, Kai, I think you have a question.
How does this work?
Yeah,
It only works because of everyone subscribing.
there we go.
Hopefully,
Exactly. So that's
like
the
it.
awesome thing. So it doesn't matter the age that you are. The most important is like the mindset that you have in terms of asking questions, be curious. There's no specific age that you might start. Asking questions and exploring outside and not being afraid of making any mistakes. That's perfect mindset to be involved in any area in science.
So I would say one of the reasons I've been successful in my career is I always like to ask questions. Children are naturally curious and they
Yes.
want to ask questions, but somehow, that gets annoying. And students learn, well, maybe I'll get in trouble if I ask a lot of questions. So, but what somehow for me, that never bothered me. And what happens when you can become more of a professional, you get afraid that if you're asking a question, then you're not seen as smart because you don't understand something. And I have found, at least for me personally, that I don't worry about that. I just ask questions so that I understand that. And in the end, what I'm trying to do is ask questions so I can understand things clearly and then be able to explain that. So, for example, yesterday we were having a long discussion about some recent papers about breaking encryption and using neutral atoms versus superconducting devices. And I kept on asking questions until I got a really clear answer to kind of what was going on. And I now know how to compare and understand that very well. And, the information was there, but knowing it, put it in a simple enough manner that you could understand. I think that's really important because in the end, that's what we do as scientists.
Hey, you have another question?
Yes, my question is or answer is that I love asking questions.
As John said, I think it's super important. At the end of all, that's the goal of a scientist, right? But also don't keep the questions to yourself. I think that sometimes, even if a teacher might not have an answer, it's really great to keep going and not just like forget it. Don't leave it. I love the idea of having a notebook of questions that you might have. And then you will see like a month, a year from now, you'll be like, oh, What was the answer to that? And then you have like all the answers.
So what do you think in terms of gaps when it comes to today's education, specifically in quantum? Do you think we could do something differently or better?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of high school students, and what we like the most sometimes is when we incorporate games. I just talked with a few people about quantum chess and then how they incorporate superposition. Oh, I think Kai has a question. Go ahead, Kai.
Let's go to the question, okay? That's what we want to do.
One person once sent me something about quantum chess, but what does quantum chess even mean?
Niels chess, philosophically, it is based on the Schrödinger's cat.
And I go this way now because I think this is a very good example of superposition.
The idea is that you can see if there could be a superposition between the pieces.
John, when you were at school studying physics and compared to today, do you think we're getting kind of better in terms of exposing kids to, say, quantum mechanics earlier?
Yeah, I think that's great, especially if it's driven by the curiosity of the student. And I think it's great that there are things online where you can learn all this. I'm much more of a person that says, there's a lot of things you have to learn before you can really start contributing deeply to it. It's good to learn quantum. But what I really like, for example, in our local high school, they had an engineering strain where people were building robots and kinetic sculptures and working with other students who were more artistically inclined to build things in high school. And I really like that as a training because it's a good time, even when you're 9 up to high school at this time, it's really great to learn how to build things because that's a skill that a lot of times people don't learn because they're busy studying their textbooks. But, when you go out into the real world and get a job, people want to know if you can put things together, like building Legos. I mean, that's a good skill at 9. And then you just build on that skill in middle school and high school. And that's a very practical thing. And, that kind of follows what happened with me, even though there was no formal education to do that.
Last video I showed this. This is just an example of me liking to build Lego camera.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I like that. Oh, yeah. Well, that has old school film in it, too. This is great. I very much like this.
When you were growing up, John, you didn't have Lego at the time, right? So what were you building?
I had Legos, but you just had the rectangular bricks and you did that. Nowadays, it's so sophisticated. So when my kids were growing up, I had a lot of fun, helping them build their Legos.
And what Kai was saying before about motivation to go into physics, then you can win the Nobel Prize. Do you think that should be a motivation for young students, kids? Yes, okay, I'm going to go into science because I can win something. Or it should be more about progress or just intellectual curiosity?
The real thrill of being a scientist is discovering how nature works, that no one else knows, and you kind of figure it out, and then you write about it, and you talk to people about it. And that's what's really great, okay? It's like being an explorer and finding a new continent and trying to explore that and understand what it is. Science is like that. And I would say these awards, especially Nobel Prize, it just happens on top of it. That's very nice. But that's not why you want to do science. It's too improbable to win these prizes, to be honest.
I've known that there are still lots of challenges to build quantum computer, but do you think kids can help, like me?
Well, what we want to do is build a quantum computer with Lego kind of parts so that we can put it together very easily. And that's one of the things I'm actually working on, is figuring out how to do that. It's not exactly Lego parts, but it's kind of that idea so you can put it together in a good way.
3D printing or what?
Yeah, 3D printing.
Yes, that's right. 3D printing. And what we do is we use these big factories that makes chips for your computer, and then using all those tools in those factories to put together our quantum computer. That's what we're trying to do.
So I guess we're getting to the end of the show now. So what would be one thing that you could recommend for young people watching the show, or maybe their parents, to start looking into quantum already now?
So I'm going to say this is for the parents, is whenever your child asks a question, that's great. And you have to encourage that and help them answer that. You may not know it, but you go look it up with them and try to figure it out together. Because encouraging asking questions is like the number one thing you can do for your children.
I love that. And I think that in my case, I would highly encourage to create that notebook of questions, highest journey of questions. And you might see like, oh my God, I had these questions when I was like 9 years old. And then all the memories will be also stored in there. And for parents to always see that there will be different educational opportunities for your children, taking any opportunity as a way of learning.
I think that kids know about quantum when they're my age, because we'll have this technology when we grow up, like saying you, John, when you had your computer, and it's super cool and interesting, like my camera.
Exactly. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, John and Elisa. That was really great.
Great. It was fun. We really enjoyed it.
Yes. Thank you also to our viewers for watching.
Please don't forget to click like and subscribe.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.